because that's how much opportunity was presented. So the difference between what you made and the opportunity that was presented is human error. It's your failure. It's your shortcoming as a trader. And when you do your back testing, you get a list. You get a perfect outcome. The deviation between, and what I used to do when I was coming up, and I was doing I would trade during the week, and I would trade actively, and then Saturday and Sunday Friday afternoon, Saturday and Sunday afternoon were days off. Right, the markets aren't open, so I would spend that time back testing every single one of my pairs for that week, and I would look at what was my expected outcome based on the back testing I did, and what did I actually generate in revenue. As you can imagine, that number deviated quite significantly, especially when I was learning how to trade. Because we make mistakes. We do things wrong. And Akil pointed out in the last Technical Trader workshop, he said, I didn't try and fix all my problems at once. I just tried to make one less mistake a day. At the end of every week, I wanted to look back and have made less mistakes this week than I did last week. And it's exactly the same thing for you guys. You've got to be in a position where you're constantly evaluating. And if that requires that you go back to, nobody likes back testing. Akil's been doing 2618 back testing, right? How's that going, Akil? It was nice of me to pawn that off on you, wasn't it? Nobody likes to backtest. But if that's what you need to do in order to evaluate yourself, it's one of the best ways. See, every major, I don't want to say every major one. I'll use SMB Capital because they are one of the largest and really one of the best proprietary trading firms in the world. That's what they do. They don't do it on a weekly basis. They do it on a daily basis. So their traders get into the office at 6 o'clock in the morning. They have a meeting in the morning. Then they go out onto their trade floor, which is a series of desks. They all put on headsets together so that they can all hear what's going on. And Mike Bellafiore and the other senior traders sit down, and they end up working and coaching with the other traders who are on the floor, telling them, hey, what are you doing in that position? What are you doing? What's your risk? What are you doing with that position? Constantly working with them and evaluating, and then telling them, sharing with them what they're seeing in the market and what's happening there with them. So there is a whole day of that. They eat lunch at their desk, and then they work from 6 o'clock in the morning until the markets close at 3 o'clock, or 4 o'clock for them. The markets close at 4, and then they go into their training. Then they go into going back through the entire day and looking at every trade that they took and every execution and writing reports about what they did right and what they did wrong and what they need to do improvements on. And then they go into a training session where they get evaluated by one of the mentors and one of the coaches there on the trade floor, and he talks to them about what's going on. I mean, that's the type of guy that you're up against, the guy who gets up at 5 a.m. in the morning or 4:30 in the morning to ride the freaking subway down to New York City to be in the chair at 6 o'clock in the morning so he can trade for 12 freaking hours and then turn around and do back testing until 8 o'clock at night. Then he hops back on the subway, goes back out of the city, catches a couple of hours of sleep, turns around, comes back and does it the next day. And for those of you guys who are trying to become professionals at this, who really want to do that, I'm not telling you that you got to spend 18 hours a day trading. What I'm telling you is, what is your commitment level to this thing? You're here every week, I get that. But what is your commitment level? Because that's the guy that you're competing against. That's the guy who's going to eat your lunch every single day, because he exists in every city. He exists in every market. Guys who aren't worried about losing $10,000 or $20,000 in an account of money they saved. No, it's what they eat off of. It's how they pay their bills. It's how their mortgage gets paid. It's how their kids go to school. What's your commitment level? And I know I'm preaching to the choir here, but I get a little tirade because I just think it's so critical. I mean, we sit here every day in the markets, exposed. I have the ability to do that, but I made a decision a long time ago when it was time for me is that I would trade all week long and I would spend my weekends doing back testing. That I would take this seriously, that I was going to make this a career, that I was going to make this something that I would succeed at. Come hell or high water. And if you're not there, you got to get there. There's no other options. All right.